Hey everyone, this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. All right, let's address the Pontos thing right away. That's probably why you're here. First of all, I want to say that I reached out to several individuals in the community that I talk to fairly often and asked them about their experiences with Pontos. I wanted to make sure that what has happened to me wasn't just a one-off event and I'm just that outlier who kind of got hosed. I don't want to be that person. Unfortunately, what I discovered is that what has happened is not unique. It's actually very commonplace. What is unique with Pontos is having a good customer service experience. When it does happen, it's great, but apparently those events are far and few in between. The other reason that I'm bringing this all up is that I know a lot of you follow along on the builds. You build along with me. You buy the same kits that I buy, and often per my recommendations. And so I would be very upset if I found out someone's following along on this very expensive build, had pieces missing, and also were unable to acquire replacement parts. So that's part of the reason I'm bringing this all up. So what happened? In the last episode, I discovered that I was missing two photo etch sheets, T and U. I had already stripped the necessary parts away from my kit, and I had already cleaned everything up and was ready to apply all this photo etch, and it's gone. They're not there. I don't have them. I went ahead and emailed them right away. They actually replied to me the very next day and said, hey, no problem. Send us some information. We'll get you the sheets out to you. That was almost 2 months ago. I followed up with them once a week for about a month saying, hey, may I have a tracking number, please? I'm trying to plan things out for the build in the shop. Do I need to pay for anything? I'll happily pay you. I'll pay for shipping. It's not a problem. Are you even there? They just straight up ghosted me. It's extremely disappointing. I almost would have been better if they just had not replied at all, or if they just replied back and said, no, sorry, you're out of luck. I would have moved on a lot earlier. But instead, they right away said that it was the T's, right? They said they'd do one thing, and then they didn't. So, that's not good. That's bad customer service. These kits are extremely expensive. So moving on, first of all, if you're building this kit, you're thinking about building this kit, it builds out of the box fantastically. I think all of Trumpeter's models, if you just build them out of the box, you'll end up with a great model and you'll be super happy and proud of it. Really, all you need on this kit is the KA set. It fixes some critical details and improves some critical parts in photo etch very nicely and with resin, and you have a phenomenal build. A lot of the Pontos kit is just replacing kit detail that's there and making it better, or in my mind, it's just replacing plastic with metal. That's all you're really getting, and I enjoy that kind of work, which is why I bought it. So we'll go ahead and press on with that. I'm going to have to be cautious moving forward because especially sheet U uniform, there's a lot of little details on there, and I need to be, it's going to slow the build down because I'm going to have to figure out what I can and cannot remove from here on out. But KA is a great alternative. I don't know if Edward or Edard, that's for you, Nigel. Edard has an alternative. I used them on the Arizona, and I was really happy with them. They're a great detail set company. Down the road, we have the Pontos also for Titanic, because we just started that a long time ago. We'll use it. We'll finish that build with it. But from here on out, I don't know that I'm going to be utilizing Pontos. And I just want you all to take that into consideration. Also, when you're making your purchases, that if something ends up missing, you may just be out of luck. So please take that into consideration. So in terms of good customer service and what I expect here, I guess, I also, some of you may have seen the shorts I put up just recently. I had a bad experience with True North Paints. And I apologize to the gentleman at True North Paints. It was the perfect storm. I was in the middle of fixing everything on Enterprise. I finally got to the point where I was ready to paint. I sat down and I discovered that the bottles were labeled incorrectly and the colors that were in the paint bottles were wrong. Now, I emailed them right away. They responded immediately. They apologized right away. They identified one of the paint colors that was mislabeled, so I was able to label it correctly. They did that just through a photograph. They don't know what happened with some of the other ones, but they went back, they cleaned up my order, and they're shipping me replacement bottles of paint immediately to resolve the situation. That's one of the reasons I like them. It's enamel paint, it sprays really well, it brush paints really well. But there's the customer service. They made a mistake. I showed it to them, and they fixed it right away. And they're not charging hundreds of dollars for their kit. You know, you're just buying a bottle of paint. That's really the customer service I expect, and I think True North Paints is doing a great job there. Again, the whole thing with Pontos is it's really disappointing, unfortunately. So what are we doing in this episode? Well, we're going to fix everything. So all the detail that I had cut off of the kit parts, we're going to have to replace. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, whatever, it just means I got to scratch build it. So that's what we're going to do. Anywhere where I can utilize the KA kit parts, I'm going to, which we'll use for the doors. I have the kit parts I could utilize, but I feel like the KA parts more closely match Pontos' stuff that I've used on the rest of the ship. And then, yeah, we'll just put it all together, get it painted up, and we're going to catch up to where I wanted to be at the end of the last episode. That's where we're going to be today. And then we'll press on from here. I hope everyone's having a wonderful holiday season. Everything's going well, enjoying time off. Thank you to everyone over on Patreon. We really appreciate having you all there. I hope you continue to enjoy our Duchess of Kingston build that's going along really well, and I really am enjoying these. It's a great, fun kit. And that's it. And thank you to everyone who's purchased something through the Midwest Model Shop. We appreciate your patronage. We're working on more parts all of the time. Please be patient. But don't hesitate to send ideas of things that you want. The key and current motto is to provide you with useful, time-saving things that will enhance your kit, save you a ton of time, and allow you to build more kits more easily. That's kind of the theme there. All right, that's it. Let's get in the build. All right, let's let the games begin. So we have our kit part that I've stripped everything off of that I now need back. So we've gathered up a lot of the kit pieces, and we're going to utilize them. These parts go here and this goes here to reestablish detail that we cut off and we can't replace, thanks a lot to Pontos. We do have this photo etch piece though that will go here, and because this piece fits like up underneath it right here and some of these other details, I want to go ahead and get it glued into place first. We are still going to use the Pontos kit on this. We just have to work around the parts that we are missing. This time I am going to use my head. I'm going to bust out some of the old E6000. This is this glue. You should have it if you're going to glue large pieces of photo etch, even small pieces of photo etch on. It dries, well, it's instantly very tacky and very sticky, but it will dry with a little bit of give to it. So if anything shifts or moves on you down the road, you know, some people are actually worried about the photo etch, large photo etch parts moving with the change of temperature. I don't think that's a real thing to be worried about, but if you are, this will fix it for you. Dries in 24 hours, so even though I just stuck it on here and it's firm, I can peel it right off if I need to up until sometime tomorrow where things will get bad, but it allows you the opportunity to move stuff around and check your fit and make sure you're happy with things. So now that this is in place, we can go to this funny looking corner here. We have this kit part. This slot on the bottom goes in the floor, and then we go together like so. So you've kind of got a little keyhole here, and you've got a matching key on this side. You're going to have to trim it now that you put the photo etch on. This needs to be thinned out a little bit so that it'll fit in this slot. Because what I'm looking for, I want a square 90 right here. I want it fit flush together straight across. That's going to help our fit with some of the things we have going down the road. So I'll clean this up and we'll stick it on there. Alright, I've checked my fit and I'm pretty happy with how the floor, the bottom of this bulkhead matches up with the floor down here. And some of you may have noticed there's a door right there that I did not remove, and that's fine because it's in a corner. I just don't feel like you're going to see it that much. So I want this to be flush down here and everything kind of at 90 degrees and tucked in nice and tight, and we'll let that set up for a minute.
All right, I had a battery die, and so I didn't get the audio for these next 2 seconds. So we'll do a quick voiceover. For this piece, I went ahead and removed the one single kit door. There's supposed to be a big giant photo etch piece here from Pontos that goes over it, and it had 2 doors on it. I didn't check my blueprints to make sure this is right or not, but I'm going off of what we were missing for Pontos. So we're going to go ahead and install 2 of Pontos's doors in this position, and that will kind of help liven up this whole little segment. We'll just go ahead and get our second little blob here and drop this door on, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next part. Okay, that looks really good, and we can move on to the railing now. So this railing, I pre-cut it out and bent it, and I had to trim just a little bit of the inside edge of one of the deck here to make it fit. I want the bottom rail, this is kind of my preferred style, to attach to the outside edge of this deck right here, which is why you see me applying CA glue to the outside edge. And that makes it really easy to go ahead and pick up your piece and bring it in here and just drop it into position. So that, again, that bottom rail is just below the deck. It fits nice. Then you have your 3 rails, going across on top, and it looks really nice. And this is again a piece from the KA set.
All right, as we press on, I've glued a couple of doors in place. Here's our little assembly. You can see, hopefully you can see kind of the outline of where it was originally, so I know it goes approximately here. Pontos has you create some storage containers here that have, I believe, flotation devices in them. We'll build something up like that down the road as we put all this together. Over here in the corner, I've glued these 2 kit parts into place. I have this piece. It's a shelf. Well, it's a deck. Sorry, that drops into here. This is supposed to be replaced by a Pontos photo etch, but we don't have it. So what we'll do is we'll put it in a position, and I'll use the KA railing. I'll use a KA staircase. Actually, I might be able to use the Pontos staircase, and then we'll just go from there. So I want to detail up kind of the bottom of it, and we also have this Y-shaped business going on from earlier that I removed, and so just because we're kind of lacking in terms of our original content here or stuff, we'll put this detail back on. This is just some styrene strip that I've got, and we'll use the same materials to kind of create like a jig or like a grid pattern type of arrangement underneath our deck that goes over here to the right, so that, I don't know, on the off chance that you look up there you see something, right? It's a good opportunity when stuff like this happens to flex your scratch building skills, just to try some different things out. And there we go. So now when we paint all this blue, there'll be something there. There was like a ladder system right over here. This is so thin, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just run this up and down there as well and put the cross pieces in before we build it up. Just stuff like that. So we'll do this. I'll get this made up, and we'll come back. Okie doke. So we've got these little parts put in that I talked about before. So for our deck over here that goes on the right, I went ahead and we put the railing on, and then I put a bunch of styrene on the bottom just to represent some ribs. No, I didn't fill the little round divots in, the sink port holes in, but you're not going to notice it when it's finished, so it doesn't really matter. So this will drop in like that. For this piece, I put in a couple little details. Sorry, that I saw in the pictures from Pontos. So that will drop in like that. Our little pipes will go into the ceiling and the deck up above, like they're supposed to. And then over here we've got some containers we have to construct. I want to wait to install this because I want to paint the deck, right? And then paint all this. And I guess I could paint all this, paint the deck, paint this up, and then stick it on here, and then glue the whole thing in. That might be a good idea because then we can go ahead and add our pieces over here. So, and then there's a staircase, or sorry, a ladder, a ladder that comes down right here. We'll end up using somebody's. I don't know whose we're going to use for that, but we'll figure that out. So, now we have to move on to kind of the bummer of a problem here. I removed these posts. You can see where they go on the back. I've gone ahead and marked them with these 3 pencil marks. So I'm going to need to whip up some styrene. There's a little divider right here on each one of these spots, but I also want to put the doors in. I have the kit doors, and I have the doors that came with KA set. So I'm going to use the KA doors and drop them in here. But on this side, according to Pontos instructions, they don't go all the way down. They're supposed to be like a raised, like kind of box type of arrangement. On this side, it's pretty simple to figure out. But over here, on the one on the right, there's a set of stairs, or sorry, another ladder that goes up. So I really need to dig that ladder out, figure out its height so I can build my styrene protrusion, if you will, that sticks out over there. Yeah, I also have to decide. I'd like to put these posts and doors in now, but then that's, they'll be wiggly, but it's easier to paint. But then I think if I put them in now and I drop my doors in on the back and glue them to my styrene posts, that should provide some rigidity to keep them straight until I can get them glued into position. So yeah, this is our recovery from removing all this detail. I think so far that this is going to be all right. So yeah, I'm going to take a little break and think about my next steps here, and then we'll press on. Alright, I've decided I want to build these structures that go in front of these 2 doors, and I have this piece of styrene. It's fairly thick. If I double it up, it'll end up being the exact same width as the photo etch equivalent on the other side. But I need the height for one of them. I can guess this one in reference to door, but for the one on the right, it's supposed to match up with a stair that I mentioned earlier. And so I made the platform, which is stuck to the deck right now, the deck, but I also made the steps. So what I'm going to do is just carefully set it on here like that. I'll mark this bottom edge so that you can zoom in so you can see it, but I'll mark this bottom edge, and then I'll slice off 2, a width of 2, and we'll double it up, and then we'll glue them onto the face right here. And I'm also going to make accommodations for my landing. So let me pop this off. There we go. Because it has that little lip right there, that tab, and that's supposed to insert into the photo etch piece that is still missing from Pontos, but we'll make it work with this. I can cut a little slot into the styrene right here, and it'll work out just the same. So we'll do that, and we'll come back to putting this together. Alright, so we have our little pieces, and I've already doubled them up, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a ledge on either side. And this is on purpose because there's a ledge in the back here, and I double checked the photo etch on the other side. So this will sit in there like that, and then basically be flush. I know I'm flipping it over upside down with the outside. And then this will hold my little arm straight, and we can put the doors in, which I've cut out and prepped. So this one is the one that we said had to be this height in order to support the stairs that go next to it. So we'll just set it in here. I'll make sure that it is flush with the bottom. Maybe we'll, oh, I can't do that. Hang on. Yeah. So we want it just like that. And then this other one is taller. It's supposed to go up above the door. So same process here. Like, it's got to fit in nicely, but it's got to fit gently. There we go. Move it up just the tiniest a bit. Okay. So that should take care of this section. Let me get a little more glue. Okay, and then the doors go in. For this, we're going to go ahead and use, like I said, our KA parts because we don't have the other ones. And I could use the kit doors. I haven't looked at the kit doors. I just know that this finish, I think, is more closely aligns with what Pontos did, and I'd like to try to pretend to match them up. It's not super critical because we get to play this little trick, right? The trick is you're allowed to have things that are not exactly the same and they're different, as long as they're consistent in the area of the model that they are in, and they have something that breaks up or separates them from the other like things, which would be, in this case, the wall, and the next doors are way the heck over. And I've already, just like in the previous episode, I've already cut these at kind of various lengths so that they appear to be kind of opened up at random and stopped to let air in. That's the idea. I'm sorry if that was a little blurry. I'm just dropping this photo etch piece in. So what does it look like? It looks like this. That's nice. And then we have our photo etch that goes right here with our steps, and we're good to go. So I think that actually resolves this end of things. There's a big set of ladders that goes in here. I'm going to wait on that. I'll probably install that once it's in on the ship. So now that our doors are in, we have this section we can glue, this part on. We've beaten that to death probably. The next thing, well, there's some detail we can add to this, but the big thing, the elephant in the room is right here. We need to glue on the legs for the doors. So yeah, let's do that. Alright, so this is what we have. This styrene, and I forget the dimensions exactly, but this happens to match the kit posts that I cut off, and is very closely matches the photo etch on the other side. So this, would be the face. What I need or would like to have is a channel on the back. Now the photo etch doesn't have this channel on the back, but what it will do, I wanted something to add a little bit of rigidity, right? Rigidity, the other way. I guess we could just put that on there like this, right? Because then it'll help kind of keep everything straight. And I actually could remove this later. But, so what we're going to do is create a little I-beam. We're just going to do this for now. Just apply our little bit of glue. We'll pick this up and we'll turn it sideways. The spacing works out nicely for our photo etch doors. The doors are going to be critical to keeping these things semi-rigid and in place. So we're just going to do like that. Zoom in a little bit, I guess. And make our little I-beams here before we do our next step. So I'll do that for all three of these. Okay, so I've got my little I-beam, and just like I did in the previous episode, I'd like to put a brass rod or something along those lines in the bottom of it so that when it's attached to the ship it doesn't go anywhere. So we've got our piece. Uh-oh, looks like I need to apply a little more glue there. And I've got my drill bit, and we'll just go ahead and very carefully put a hole in here. And then what we'll do is we'll insert a little brass rod, and then when this thing is on the ship, we'll mark the spot on the deck where this is going to go, where the receiving end goes. We'll put another hole there, and then our little brass rod hopefully falls into place like we want, and we don't have any trouble. So like that. Let me get some little glue back on my piece that came off, and we'll put this together. Alright, now I've got my little brass rod. Put it in there with a little CA glue and let that set up, and then I'll trim the end off. It's actually pretty close. I want it to be about yay long. So that's what it looks like. Now the other end, I'm just going to glue this end to the top of our kit part, and we'll utilize the regular glue and the door to kind of hold it into position. And we use the full set of doors to help get our spacing right and just kind of get these things going in the first place. Let's try and do that. All right, so here's our space. This is door 14. I wrote on it so I could remember what I'm doing. But it fits nicely right in here, and you can see that little tab where the center is going to go. So since I'm not quite ready to commit to the length, I'm going to go ahead and tape this into position. I want the full length of the door here to help hold my piece, right, like this all the way while the glue sets up. And then once this glue's dried, we'll take the door off, and we'll go ahead and trim the door to the right length. That's kind of the idea here. So there's that one, and then I think this is number 10. Sorry, let's see here. Okay, now it's loose, but when we get our post in there, we can run a piece of tape along the bottom, kind of locking the whole thing together. So let me get the tape on these, the other two. All right, here they are, kind of glued into position. We've got one of our posts. This one's relatively easy because it's being held up by the door on the right here. So we'll just bump it into position like that, and that would be it, right? So my only glue point right now is at the top, which I realize is kind of crazy. But we'll lean up against the door like that. There we go. And we're in business. Now, I'm going to try and bring a piece of tape across here. And we're going to straighten this out a little bit. So it's okay if it's flexible. I want it to stick at the top, right? Then we can maneuver around with the rest of these things kind of later. So let me give that a second to set up. Okay, this is mostly there. I flipped it over and put a piece on the tape on the other side. I was able to do that relatively easily. We're going to put some more glue up here, and we're going to do the same thing to this side now. Probably the trickiest part that I'm running into is keeping it tipped this way, right, left and right, so that the face of this post matches the face of the bulkhead up above it. That is proving to be tricky, but not impossible. Nothing a little bit of patience can't fix for us. So that looks really good. Whoop. Just trying to get this tape in the right spot. I want the tape to help hold the plastic in position, not take it out. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, if I'm lucky, and I lucked out, you can flip it over and see how your post lines up and pop it in between the doors. Alright, we'll stick a little piece of tape on the bottom here. I'll bring this door up and over into my groove. Drop the tape down. So now, if you can see, that all lines up. That one all lines up, and we've got a pretty even space in the middle. Okay. It looks good. There's some hope. And again, why am I doing this? Because I want to cut the doors open, and I want them to let air through, but I do want to hold my posts. I just keep calling them posts. I'm sure there's a very clever Navy term for what this is. Beam, maybe, a door guide. I don't know. Something like that. Okay. And we'll put a piece of tape across this. Okay. Now we've got a lot of tape. And we've got our parts on the front. This one's could take just the tiniest twist. And I want it up just a little bit. So even though it kind of came loose there, it's fine because my little channel on the back for the I-beam is helping to maintain its position. I'm just going to turn it a little bit. There we go. Alright. I'm as happy with this as I think I'm going to be able to get. Now we're just going to leave it. We're going to let it dry. And then we'll come back and monkey with it some more once this is all set up. Alright, the time now is the next day. And this should be thoroughly glued into position. Well, up at the top, right? One weak little spot. So we are going to be careful here as we remove the tape. Okay. There we go. So I did go ahead and place some holes, corresponding holes in the deck of the ship for these. The next thing I want to do is trim the doors to a length that would appear to be open. To do this with photo etch, I have these commercial electrical wire shears. They're like 15-20 bucks. You can get it at your local box store. And what I do is I just find a line that I like. That's probably too little. We'll go up here a little bit more. And just very carefully follow it along and take your cut. When you're done, it does bend the PE a little bit, so you're going to have to get your pliers out, and flatten it out a little bit to get your shape back. And then sometimes I use a file to make sure that I've got my edge perfectly straight. And so we'll do that for all of our doors. And then I'll just glue them into the back of this space right up here at the top. Let's check our fit real quick. So, like this. The tricky part is getting them into these tiny little holes that I drilled. I guess I could have made them a little bit bigger. There we go. So that's it. That's the recovery. You know, and this thing goes in here. So we'll get the doors glued into position, and then we'll go to paint, and we'll install it. Press it on. All right. I've gone ahead and lathered some paint on here. Should be good enough for what we want to do. So at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and glue it into position, and we'll just use our Tamiya Ultra Thin CA. It's not CA. Ultra Thin cement, right? We'll just get it in place this way. Because of the posts at the bottom here of our little so I'm not going to glue that. The little brass rods are more than adequate for holding this thing into position. I just want to get some glue on here though, just to get started, and then we'll go back and kind of as necessary add things in. The trick though is just kind of going to be to start aft and then get our little posts to line up with the holes that I've made for them, because they do wiggle a little bit. If you move one, you kind of move them all. There we go. There. Okay. That looks good. And so now, really, just like the whole rest of the ship, the key here is going to be keeping it down and as square as you can up against the other bulkheads so that it stays in place. So we'll go ahead and let that set up a minute, and we'll add this other stuff. Alright, I don't have the ladder prepared for this piece. I'll just have to do that later. It's not a big deal. You fold it, you paint up, you put in. But got this guy, and you should just slide right into position like so, and we'll let it be. And then we've got to do this guy over here, which I'm kind of still guesstimating the position of just a little bit, but I'm not gonna get too wrapped up about it. There's a bit that goes on the deck also right down here, and there was supposed to be, if I had had the Pontos piece, a template for marking out the hole for the crane, which I built an alternate platform for. So let me just double check over here. And, oh, you know what? Well, we're going to put this here. I haven't built the, there's little containers, right, that go right here that I need to put into position too. But that's just a matter of a couple of boxes. And then you're set up there. So, yeah, I'm going to call that good for right now. This is where I had hoped to be last time. This is what last episode was supposed to be. But there we go with a little bit of scratch building. We've got our doors in place. We've got the posts back in. And yeah, we're looking good. There's a little stair I got to put in here. I know I talked about. I'll get that stuff painted up and touched up for next time, so we could take a look at all of that. But this is the big catch-up that we needed to do, and it's super helpful. And that's it. Probably it for the end of the holiday. Those of you watching this in the far-off future, this is right before Christmas of 2023. Hope everyone has a happy holiday and a happy new year, and yeah, we'll see you next time.